Well, I just got back from the Gravely blow-in this year, and it was fun. And there wasn't a ton of guys there. It was maybe 15 to 20 guys, and we didn't really have any projects to work on, so we fired up a couple things. But the first footage you're going to see here is me working on replacing the float in an old Gravely hex-axle tractor. It's a serial number 2. So it's essentially the second Model L ever made. I think it's a 35, I can't remember the year, but I think it's 1935. It's either 34, 35, or 36, I can't remember, but we wanted to fire it up and turned on the gas and it was just pouring out of the carb like crazy. So you'll see me replace the float in that. And this tractor was, a little bit different than the current Model L. And it has 2 tanks on it. One has oil in it, one has gas in it. Transmission works completely different, but watch us fire it up. And I just changed it. This thing's made out of balsa wood or something. I just swapped it to this homemade float here. This carburetor was made by Gravely and has no parts availability. It's from like 1936 or something, so we're gonna put this together and see if it works. This is the carburetor here, bowl. Yeah, we got a 60-volt DeWalt drill with an overrunning clutch. Is that what you call that?
Yes, sir. Breaker bar clutch.
Breaker bar clutch.
That's what it's called.
Oh! Gravely serial number 2. tractor here is an early first series Gravely 408 tractor that had been sitting for a long time, probably more than 10 years. And we were playing with this one, trying to get it running, and it had a really irregular spark on it. And we had cleaned the points, we put a new condenser in it, and I determined that the actual problem was the lead at the end of the spark plug wire where it attaches to the top of the spark plug was no good. So eventually what we did is we just cut the end of the wire off, stripped back the copper and just wrapped it around the top of the spark plug, and we were able to get a consistent spark. Then we cleaned out the fuel pump and it started up, so it's pretty cool.
All right.
This segment here is my buddy Eric purchased this Model D Gravely, and it came from a guy's estate that had passed away last spring, and it was in his basement of his house, and some guys from our club rescued it, and we have no idea if it works or not. So literally, we pulled off the plug wire and checked for spark, and it had spark, so we threw some gas in it and tried to start it up. This Model D, right? From England.
Yeah, there's a book. There's books in them things on these. These, the owner's guide, little pocketbook. Yeah, you want me to hunt you down some? Dang.
Now, one thing about a Gravely Model D, we don't really show them too often here, but they were made from like 1922 forward to maybe the late 30s, early 40s. And there was a company overseas in England that was licensed under Gravely to make them in England. And this particular Model D is from England, so they call it an English Model D. And again, we don't know exactly what year it is because there's no good serial number tag on it, but starting a D can be a challenge. You gotta wrap a rope around it and pull it. It's a starter strap like a Model L, so the preferred way to start one of these things is doing what we call belt starting it, which is you take a running tractor, usually a Model L, and you get a big belt and run it from the starter pulley on the L to the back of the D where the pulley would go. And you kind of pull apart on the handlebars on both tractors, and it puts tension on the belt and it allows the engine to spin, and you can start it that way. So my buddy Rich got this big fancy 60 volt DeWalt drill that he's starting engines with now. And he was trying to use that we were trying to use that with the belt, but it didn't work. So we related to another tractor that was a 1944 Gravely L wartime tractor, which is another rare beast.
Right off. Somebody got shot. Somebody working on the chip. Hey, you more experienced. Who's working on the chip?
Is the gas on down here? No.
There's oil on.
Gas is on.
The oil's on.
Okay.
Oil on.
Clutch is in. You turn the oil on?
Yeah, turn the oil on.
And it looks like it's
We might as well be optimistic.
shouldn't be on.
Turn it on. We'll be optimistic.
Oil's on.
All right. Somebody got, hey, Ralph. There you go. Ralph.
I'm on it.
Yeah, hold on. No, we're done. Leave the gas like I said.
We need a gas.
Yep.
This part here is like a bolt. It's flat on one side, or like a little dog over here on this side, and it runs forward. Goes in the back.
When it runs backward, it takes that curled edge and it straightens it right back.
Really doesn't feel like we got a lot of compression.
Oh, it's leaking out.
Yeah, it's gonna leak a little bit.
The paper towels are.
Same direction. It may not grip though.
I was gonna say, put it down, leave it down there on the teeth. Yeah. Might have some grip.
We're turning
Yeah.
it over, but not quite. Yeah. Let me get a little angle here again. Yeah, just not.
Yep, I think.
That works the opposite.
All right.
Yeah, at least we did.
The other project, I was helping two guys work on a Fairbanks mag, and the Fairbanks Morse, I'd never really taken one apart, and I didn't get any pictures or videos of it, but we had 4 different Magnetos that we were screwing around with for about 2 hours, and eventually we determined that it was really worthless to continue with the project, but we were trying to take the rotor shaft out of the Fairbanks and swap it into a different one, and they're very hard to take apart, way harder than a Wyco is. And we ended up cracking the whole aluminum case on the Magneto, so we kind of gave up. Well, here's my purchase from the blow-in this year. This is what you call a Gravely starter cart, and it's used for starting an old Model L that's pull start. A socket goes on the end here, and then that engages with the back of the starter pulley where you normally run the rope around. And up here it has a push button switch that activates it to run, and it basically has a starter clutch and a starter from a Model L tractor on there, and that's what's spinning the thing is the starter clutch. So this came from my buddy Rich, who has had this for years and started a lot of tractors over the years. I've actually used it myself a number of times, and it works really good. So we're going to give it a shot and see if maybe this year we can get some old tractors running with this, because I'm really not a fan of pull starting them anymore, so this will make things a lot easier in life. But anyways, that's about it. I just got to get a socket for the end, and has a battery over here that came with it also. It's an older battery, it's not really that good anymore. And then I picked up a couple other things here. This is for a 40-inch mower deck for a rider. Came with a lifting mechanism, a drive shaft, and the belt covers. I could have got the whole deck probably for 20 bucks, but I really didn't have any interest in lugging that huge thing around, so this is a lot easier to deal with. And that's about it.